Why is it that the more we cling to love, the more it begins to feel like a chain? At first, love feels like freedom. It feels like a breath of fresh air, like the whole world has suddenly opened up. You feel alive, connected, and for a moment, it seems like you've discovered something timeless. But then, almost without realizing it, that love starts to turn into attachment. And with attachment comes fear. Fear of losing, fear of change, fear of being abandoned. And in that fear, what once felt free begins to feel heavy. What once gave life now begins to take it away. We rarely stop to ask ourselves, is love the same as attachment? Most of us confuse the two. We say, I love you, but underneath it there's an invisible demand. We want the other person to behave a certain way, to stay with us, to fulfill our expectations, to never hurt us, to never leave. And so love becomes a contract, a bargain. I give you my affection, but in return, you must never break my heart. This is where love turns into a prison we build with our own hands. Krishnamurti often pointed out that when love is tied to possession, it is no longer love at all. It becomes a form of fear and control. Think about it. When you say, you are mine, what are you really saying? You are saying, I do not want you to change. I do not want you to walk away. I want to secure my happiness by owning you. But can love ever be owned? If love is alive, if it is something real, it cannot be caged. The moment you try to cage it, it dies. And yet, this is exactly what most of us do. We cling. We hold tight. We measure our worth by whether someone stays or leaves. We look to another human being to give us a sense of identity, to fill the emptiness within ourselves. And when they fail to do that perfectly, as they always will, we feel betrayed, hurt, abandoned. But is the problem really with them, or is it with our idea of love? Let's be honest. We want security in love. We want to know that no matter what happens, this person will always be there for us. That sounds comforting. It sounds beautiful. But is it real? Can a human being ever be our permanent guarantee? People change. Life changes. Even the person who loves you deeply today may feel differently tomorrow. Not because they are cruel, but because that is the nature of life. Everything is in motion. Everything evolves. So when we demand permanence in love, aren't we asking for the impossible? We want something fixed in a world where nothing is fixed. We want something eternal from a creature who is not eternal. That's why attachment always breeds suffering, because it is born from illusion. Now, I'm not saying relationships are meaningless or that we should all walk away from love. Quite the opposite. But if love is to be real, it must be free. Free from the need to control. Free from the fear of losing. Free from the demand that the other person should be exactly who we want them to be. When you love someone truly, you don't chain them. You don't say, you must love me back in the same way forever. Instead, you allow them to be. You allow them to change. You allow them to leave, if that is where life takes them. This sounds terrifying at first, because if love does not give me security, then what do I have left? That's where the deeper question comes in. Why do I need another person to complete me? Why do I feel empty unless I am loved in return? If I am inwardly insecure, no amount of love from another person will fix that. It may cover it up for a while, but sooner or later, the fear will come back. That's why Krishnamurti always insisted that love is not something you can find through dependency. Love begins when the mind is free from fear. Imagine love without fear. Imagine love without possession. Imagine loving someone not because they make you feel secure, but because you see them for who they are, without judgment, without demand, without expectation. That kind of love is alive. It is not chained to the past or bound by fear of the future. It is in the present, always new, always fresh. And when love is like that, it never becomes a burden. But here's the challenge. To live in love without turning it into attachment requires great awareness. It requires watching yourself when jealousy arises, watching yourself when you start to cling, watching yourself when fear whispers, "What if they leave me?" That awareness, that seeing, is the beginning of freedom. Because the truth is, The only chains in love are the ones we create in our minds. Love itself does not bind. It is our fear, our insecurity, our craving for permanence that forges the shackles. If we can see this clearly, maybe we can let love be what it truly is, an energy of freedom, not possession. So let's ask ourselves, what happens when we no longer approach love as a possession? What happens when we no longer demand security from it? At first, it might feel like standing on the edge of a cliff. There's uncertainty. There's no guarantee. But in that uncertainty, something extraordinary happens. Love becomes real. It is no longer based on fear, on bargaining, on control. It is not built on the past or chained to the future. It exists only in the present, in the living moment. Think about how we usually approach relationships. We create an image of the other person. We say, "This is who they are. This is how they make me feel. This is what they will always be to me." But the moment you hold on to that image, you stop seeing the actual person. You don't see their movement, their growth, their change. You only see what you want them to be. And when they act outside of that image, you feel hurt, betrayed, disappointed. But is it really betrayal, or is it simply that we were clinging to an illusion? Real love demands that we see the other person as they are, moment by moment. That means we cannot hold on to yesterday's idea of them. We cannot hold on to promises, memories, or expectations as if they are permanent. To love is to see freshly, every single day. That's why Krishnamurti once said, "To look at a flower without naming it, without holding on to yesterday's knowledge of it, is to see it as though for the first time." Can we do the same with a human being? Can we look at our partner, our friend, our family, without the burden of past judgments and future demands? When love is alive like this, it is no longer heavy. It is not a weight on your shoulders. It doesn't bind you or the other person. Instead, it gives both of you space to be fully yourselves. And in that space, a different kind of intimacy appears. Not the intimacy of dependency, but the intimacy of freedom. You are with each other not because you must be, but because in freedom, you choose to be. That choice, renewed every day, is far more powerful than any promise sealed in fear. But here's the catch. Most of us don't want that kind of freedom. Freedom sounds beautiful when we talk about it, but in practice, it terrifies us. Because freedom also means the possibility of loss. It means the other person might change, might walk away, might not fit the story we've written in our minds. And that's where the mind starts whispering, better to hold on, better to secure what you have, better to cling. But the moment we cling, we strangle the very love we are trying to preserve. It's like holding a bird in your hand. If you let it rest gently, it may stay. It may even return to you again and again. But if you close your fist, if you try to trap it, you will kill it. The same is true of love. To keep it alive, you must give it air, space, freedom. So how do we actually live this way? How do we shift from attachment to real love? The first step is not to force yourself to detach. That would just be another form of control. Instead, it begins with simple observation. Notice your own mind. Notice when you feel jealous, when you feel afraid of being abandoned, when you feel the urge to control or demand. Don't judge it. Don't suppress it. Just see it. When you see it clearly, without resistance, something changes. That clarity itself is freedom. Because the truth is, love and fear cannot exist together. Where there is fear, love cannot flourish. And where there is love, fear dissolves. If I am afraid of losing you, I am not really loving you. I am only protecting myself, my comfort, my image of security. But if I can be with you without that fear, then what arises is something much deeper, something untouched by time. This doesn't mean love will always last in the way we imagine. Relationships may end, people may walk different paths, but even in that ending, love does not have to turn into bitterness or hatred. If there was true love, free from chains, then even the ending can be a movement of beauty, not destruction. You may part ways, but the love that was lived is never wasted. And maybe this is the most radical thing of all. To see that love is not about holding on forever, but about living fully in the moment you share. That moment may be long or short, but its truth is not measured by duration. It is measured by depth, by freedom, by authenticity. When you see love this way, it never becomes a chain. It is never a prison. It is a flame that burns brightly, without fear of being extinguished, because it does not depend on permanence. So perhaps the real question is not, how do I keep love forever? But, can I live love right now, without fear, without possession? If we can live that way, then maybe love will finally be what it was always meant to be. Not a shackle, but a liberation. Love was never meant to be a cage. It is not about holding someone so tightly that they cannot breathe, nor about demanding they stay exactly as we want them to be. True love is found in freedom, the freedom to grow, to change, to come together, and even to part without bitterness. When we stop confusing attachment with love, we discover that love does not weigh us down. It lifts us up. It is not born from fear, but from awareness. And in that awareness, love becomes something extraordinary, alive, fresh, unchained. So the next time you feel the urge to cling, pause and ask yourself, am I holding on out of fear, or am I allowing love to be free? Because only when love is free can it truly flourish. Only then does it stop being a prison and become what it truly is, a doorway to freedom.